We're now joined by a former member of the Conservative government and Tory leadership hopeful, Robert Jenrick. He's here in the studio with us this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Obviously, you know, I don't know whether you were there for some of the bit where we were talking about Sir Keir Starmer's speech yesterday, very much blaming the Conservative Party for the huge economic black hole that's been left. I mean, what did you make of what he had to say and what the accusations he was making about the Conservative government?
Well, look, I thought 53 days into this new Labour government, which was elected on a read my lips, no new taxes platform, he's already preparing the ground to break his word and raise taxes on middle-class people and families across the country. He'd said no tax rises on working people, hadn't he? That was the pledge that he'd made. Well, let's see what Rachel Reeves does this autumn. But it seems to me that he is going to increase taxes. He's already taken away the winter fuel payment. So that's 10 million pensioners, people on low incomes who are going to have less money this winter, just at the time that energy bills are rising. And he's using that money to increase public sector pay and to reward his trade union paymasters to the tune of £10 billion a year. So there are political choices being made here. I think they're selfish choices.
Although
they're taking money away from the poorest in society,
would have had to raise
giving
taxes
it to
as well,
trade
wouldn't
unions.
they?
No, we stood on a platform which was very clear that we weren't going to increase those taxes. We weren't going to cave into the trade unions. We were very clear that we wanted to ensure that public sector pay was kept under control so that we could control inflation.
What were you going to do then? Because these strikes had been going on for years and there was absolutely no prospect of a settlement. I mean, in the end, you've got to settle. At some point, you have to do a deal. Are you saying that the settlement that the government has reached so far is excessive?
In many cases, yes. I mean, and also, they're not really settlements, are they? I mean, look, take the train drivers, for example, ASLEF. There, the government gave ASLEF, the train drivers' union, everything they wanted, and then 2 days later, the same trade union turns around and says it's going to continue striking. It's going to go on a 3-month strike on the East Coast Main Line. Those are trains from King's Cross to Edinburgh.
Well, the government have offered us 5% per year over 3 years, a total of just under 15%. What would you have... Now you're out of power, you can say, what was your bottom line? What would you guys have offered them?
For the train drivers' union? Well, we wanted to ensure that we got proper reforms to the railways.
What would you have offered them? What percentage would you have offered them? Because to a lot of people, 5% doesn't sound that much.
Well, I think it is quite a lot when you're getting absolutely nothing.
So what would you have offered them then?
Well, I wasn't involved in the negotiations myself, but we would not be offering above-inflation increases.
So you would have offered them what, 2.5%?
I don't think it... Do you think it's right that a train driver...
It's not... I think it doesn't matter what I think.
We're having the conversation. Do you think it's right that a train driver should be getting a £10,000 increase, and that is being paid for by taking away the winter fuel allowance from a pensioner who might have as little income as £11,000 a year? That, to me, is a bad political judgment. It's a selfish choice to reward a paymaster that has helped the Labour Party to win a general election, and is not a serious choice for anyone who cares about the vulnerable in our country.
Talking about political judgment, can I ask you something that's in the news today as well? It's about this biography of Liz Truss that Anthony Seldon is writing. You were a health minister at the time under Liz Truss, and it says in the book that Liz Truss, as Prime Minister at the time, was considering cutting cancer treatment to save money. Now, are these conversations that you were aware of?
No, I've seen the reporting of that, and I don't know any more about it. I think we'll have to wait and see what the book says. But look, the mini-budget was a very damaging episode. The Conservative Party...
Well, it lost you the next election, didn't it?
It contributed to it, 100%. You know, the government of the day behaved in a cavalier and cack-handed fashion. That's unconservative. We should be safeguarding people's pensions, their savings, their mortgages, and part of the rebuild of the Conservative Party that I want to lead is one which restores our reputation for sound management of the public finances.
So what do you think when you see Liz Truss, specifically Liz Truss, basically, and this is her take on this, to say, I did nothing wrong? She said, I did nothing wrong, it's a case of misreporting, I'm the sucker here. When clearly she did completely screw up your party. It must infuriate you that you won't accept it.
I think that we should fiercely defend the things we got right when we were in government.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about what you got wrong.
Well, there were many things. You know, we restored the public finances. We left the economy as the fastest-growing major economy in the world today, despite what Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves said yesterday. But we should also be honest about the mistakes we made.
So does it annoy you that your former Prime Minister won't admit that she got it wrong?
One of those mistakes was that growth was too low, taxes were too high, and we lost our reputation for sound management of the public finances, in part because of the poor decisions that were taken in the autumn of 2022.
I'm just staggered to hear that this was even being talked about, though, that Liz Truss was thinking about scrapping all cancer treatment on the NHS to try to repair the damage caused by the economic policies.
Well, the
and you didn't hear any talk about this. There was
I don't know anything about
but you must be thinking now, having heard these accusations about what was going on, it seems extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about that, but what I am clear on is that the Conservative Party has to rebuild the trust of the electorate. That is trust on immigration, and I think it was very telling, for example, that Keir Starmer didn't even mention immigration in his speech yesterday, one of the principal concerns of the British public. I want to ensure we tackle that, we get legal migration down, and we have the most robust answer to illegal migration to stop the boats. I also know that we've got to restore our reputation on the economy. And that does mean being clear that the behaviour around the mini-budget was wrong, it was unconservative, and that is not something that we would do in the future.
Well, let's talk about you now. You want to be the next leader of the Conservative Party, which means you want to be the next Prime Minister, after Keir Starmer. How's your campaign going?
I think it's going well. You know, I've been out and about across the country just in the last few days. I'm in Devon, Cornwall, Hampshire, Scotland, Wales, you know, all over the country, meeting people, members of the public, Conservative Party members.
Well, because you say members of the public, because, I mean, recent opinion polls over the last 2 or 3 weeks show a huge amount of disinterest. The public don't really care about the leadership election. Obviously, you guys do within the party, but the general public doesn't. At the moment, they wash their hands of you.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Look, I'm the only Conservative Member of Parliament in the whole of Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire. So, you know, I know...
It's that bad, isn't it?
I know how damaged the party's brand is, how difficult the present situation is for our party. But I want to begin the long road of turning that around. I acknowledge we have a mountain to climb. But the way to do that, I think, is to defend the good things we did in government, like on the economy, a decade of high employment, reforming our schools so our children are now amongst the most literate
and in climbing the mountains you refer to...
But being honest about the mistakes that we've made.
And in climbing the mountains you refer to, will you be roping Nigel Farage into the climbing party?
I don't think Nigel Farage wants to join the Conservative Party. I don't think that he needs to. I want to put reform out of business. I want to make them redundant because I want to have clear policies on legal and illegal migration.
But their support is going up.
I want to.
Their support is going up, though. I mean, it might be a situation where you need to merge. Would that be a possibility?
No, I don't think that's right. What we need to do as a party is bring back those voters that we lost, the millions of voters we lost to reform at the last election. And you do that by having a leader that has credibility on the issues that are of concern to reform voters, and by adopting very clear positions, as I have done, not just in this leadership election, but for many months. OK,
can I ask you, it's a bit of a personal question, but you have talked about this in an interview before. You've said that you took Ozempic, the weight loss drug. You took it for a few weeks last year, I think, before stopping. Is that right? Tell us about sort of how it worked for you then.
Well, look, I was overweight. I did try Ozempic for a period of time. It didn't really suit me.
But it worked, though, didn't it? You lost weight.
Well, it worked for a period of time, but then, you know, guess what? The easiest way to lose weight in the long term is to eat less and do some more exercise. And so
Where did you get it from? Did you get it online or did you get it prescribed?
I got it prescribed.
Got it prescribed, so you knew you were getting the right stuff. And did you self-administer or was it administered by a GP?
Well, you take it yourself, but I only did it for a few weeks, and then...
Well, nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, you do what you need to do.
You know, I'm pleased to have lost weight.
Is it the type of thing that you'd be saying is an answer to the obesity crisis, though? You know, if you're going for the leadership bid, is this what you'll be pushing, do you think?
Well, people have to make their own choices, don't they? And you know, people will read about it and choose whether it suits them. But the main thing is, you know, I'm pleased to be healthier, and it's worked for me, but...
well, you certainly look... Well, I can see you've lost weight since the last time we interviewed you. I mean, it's noticeable. So, you know, whatever you're doing, it's obviously working.
Good
to see you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Have we just been talking to the next leader of the Conservative Party?
Well, Ozempic's not going to shed the Tory record for him, is it? You have to work a bit harder on that.
Do you think Kevin should try some Ozempic?
No, he is in with a good chance. Yeah. I do wonder why you want it, because you talk about that long road and the high mountain. No, it's a 10-year project, isn't it? Not 5.
I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure about that,
Not on the speed for the last 7 weeks.
It's a tough job. as you know. It's probably the worst job in politics. Most leaders who take over a party after an election thrashing like that don't make it. You might prepare the ground for somebody after you.
Yeah,
and are you doing the right thing? Shouldn't you buy...
let's see about that.
Yeah.
If the last 56 days of Labour government have anything to go by, I think everything is to play for in British politics
we have to remember, although it's a huge Labour majority, the share of the vote was one of the lowest I think the government's ever had.
34, yeah, it's low.
34% is incredibly low.
But that's...
Miliband,
which makes it quite fragile.
It is fragile. I think there is all to play for.
But not, and you know this, if the Tories and the Reform are splitting the right wing vote. Put them out of business.
If Robert Jenrick splits the Reform out of business,
it's going to be very
think
difficult.
all the questions that we ask people like you, which are based to some extent on our own little predictions of what we think may or may not happen, are very much up in the air at the moment, because politically, if you think about it, one, nobody could see the Liz Truss budget coming. I mean, when it came, it was just shocking. I mean, it was just so clearly... it was so clearly left off-centre. Nobody could have seen what's happening in America happening. I mean, a few weeks ago, we were saying here that Donald Trump was going to be the next president of the United States. Look at it now.
Rishi Sunak, I think you backed him for the Tory leadership, didn't you? He saw the Liz Truss budget coming. If you listen to those debates, you saw him taking apart our economics. He got accused of mansplaining to her.
All right, then it's debatable. But my broad point is that politics generally in the West is very much up for grabs at the moment, isn't it? I mean, it really is an unpredictable...
Politics is very unpredictable.
Yeah.
There are big
more so than ever.
More so than ever. And there are big challenges facing this country and every Western country, frankly, whether it's mass migration, low economic growth, ageing societies, climate change. My central point is this. I didn't hear in Keir Starmer's speech yesterday serious answers to any of those questions. That's what I'd like to do, if I'm lucky enough to lead the party, to have serious answers to the big challenges facing our country. I think if we can do that, we can begin to rebuild the trust.
Robert, I was listening to you on pay. I mean, I think you were a train crash on drivers. I think you got it completely wrong and over the period, right? But the independent peer review bodies, 5.5% for teachers, others... Would you have honoured those agreements? They were commissioned, those reports were commissioned when you were in. Would you have paid teachers what was recommended by the independent review bodies and the other workers?
Good question.
No, I think that...
You wouldn't have paid?
I think these are unaffordable. And
so you'd have broken the agreement?
The political choice that is being made here is a simple one. We are taking, or the government is taking money from pensioners and their winter fuel payments to pay relatively well-off
that's not the
people,
question.
relatively well-off people, such as trained drivers.
You wouldn't have paid teachers and other public service workers.
That is not a political choice that I would have made. And I certainly wouldn't be taking money off pensioners to pay for Ed Miliband's Great British
We will have to leave it there.
It's a qualified
a company that doesn't actually make any energy.
Robert Jenrick.
Thanks for coming in, Robert.
Andrew and Kevin, thank you both very much.